let's just take Michael Cohen, which is hard to do, at his word. Everything he said today is true in this experiment, in this hypothetical. Did it prove Donald Trump committed a crime?
No, because he paid this money at the direction of Donald Trump. The money was authorized by Donald Trump. The money was signed off on Donald Trump. Paying the money, the hush, everybody likes to call it the hush money trial because it's so sexy. But paying that money itself was not illegal. So what was Mr. Trump's intent in paying this money? This is where Michael Cohen needs to take us. And he's not taking us there. And if he tries, it's going to be based on his credibility. Michael Cohen is walking reasonable doubt.
Ximena, have we figured out how the prosecution is going to get around this major problem? Did we get any insight today into getting around the fact that their star witness is an admitted perjurer and felon?
So we have barely made it to January 2016 in testimony. So we're expecting that tomorrow, an entire second day of testimony, will bring some of those questions, and that the prosecutors will likely ask Cohen about his criminal past, particularly when it comes to those perjury charges. That is not something that the prosecution has tried to hide or sugarcoat, and they've gotten in front of it by making Cohen one of the last witnesses to testify, but still also not the last one to tie a bow on their case.
Yeah, fair enough. And obviously, so day two of the direct examination, then you get to the cross. Ximena, just take us inside the courtroom real quick. Give us the body language. Michael Cohen walks in, Donald Trump walks in. Who was sitting, who was standing? Was there glares exchanged? What was it like?
This was a very particular circumstance because this is the second time that Cohen is testifying against his former boss, someone that he claims to have wanted to protect, someone he himself has called boss before, and really put a lot on the line for him. Now, Cohen is sitting in the witness stand. I think I mentioned this before with Stormy Daniels. There seems to be something blocking those who are sitting in the witness stand from seeing the former president, because when asked to identify them in the courtroom, they kind of look up and over, and I think Cohen even stood up to try and find Trump into the crowd. But Trump really didn't make a lot of eye contact. Now, last week during various testimony, not only Daniels, but some of his former employees, he was leaned over the table. He was actively paying attention. Today, he was more slouched back. His tie kind of fell to the side. At times, he seemed to be reading some papers. He wasn't as attentive watching the testimony as he was last week.
Michael, I've watched an awful lot of Law & Order episodes and covered a few trials myself. How is it that the witness can't see the defendant?
I mean, he doesn't want to. Michael Cohen, to be in that courtroom and to be Michael Cohen staring at Donald Trump and having to make the kind of testimony that he has is extremely difficult. And it's very awkward. And I'm sure Trump has been told by his attorneys, don't smirk at him, don't do anything, because then the prosecution will bring it up. The other issue is that after the end of this case, there's going to be a motion to dismiss by the defense. That happens at the end of all criminal cases. I don't think at this point this judge has the ability, is going to not grant this. I don't think the people have proved a crime.
Wow. All right, so that would be huge, right? Especially considering what Donald Trump's been saying about the judge here. I think what's really interesting, right, is you made a great point. He didn't smirk at Michael Cohen. He didn't smile. He didn't try to intimidate him or anything like that. Not only that, he didn't talk about Michael Cohen. This is somebody who Donald Trump has had some very choice words for in the past. Today after court, he didn't say Michael Cohen's name. Take a listen.
He's a corrupt judge, and he's a conflicted judge, and he ought to let us go out and campaign and get rid of this scam. Every single legal analyst, even CNN, even MSDNC, they're saying there's no case here.
Okay, put aside the bluster of Donald Trump there, Michael. This is a man, now a defendant who is abiding by the judge's order and the gag order and probably by his lawyer's advice, right?
I think so. He's holding himself together to try to get past this, because I think after Michael Cohen, we have one more witness. The cross-examination, it's difficult for me to explain to people who haven't done this job, the cross-examination of Michael Cohen, how deep it's going to be, because you have so many areas of lying to go into. It is extremely rare to have a convicted perjurer on the stand. Let me be clear. There's no way in the prosecution's mind they would ever want to call Michael Cohen to the stand, but they have to. They have to rely on him. And you have to, at a certain point, I was having a very deep discussion with one of the most prominent criminal defense lawyers in the country, and he's talking about the case, and I said, at a certain point, you have to believe something. The jury has to believe something that Michael Cohen says. I don't care how much let's say he contributes 5% to the case. They have to believe him. And with those two jurors that are attorneys, it's going to be a hell of a cross-examination.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.